Hey folks, it's Abby, and it is a little bit early, but I'm doing the mid-year book freakout tag. I needed some videos to film, and I want to do like stuff that's actually stats for my mid-year, or like a mid-year haul, and I can't do any of them yet. That has to happen after June. So we're doing a slightly early mid-year book freakout tag. So I have the questions here on my phone. Let's dive straight in. How is your reading going? Both fantastically and awfully. Both at the same time. I have read around 80 books already this year. I'm currently in the middle of another 3. It's going great in terms of quantity, but I had thought I was doing quite well in getting rid of the books off of my physical TBR. And then Shipshape Smithy on Instagram was like, oh, how many have you got left? And I counted them. And now I'm concerned because I have more than I started with, somehow. I don't know how. Yeah, it's been a reality check that despite the fact that I've read loads, I somehow am not getting through my owned books. And I've brought some new books in, like, I'm not dumb, I know I have, but I didn't think it was that many. Oh god, it's even higher, I didn't include 2 books that I've got downstairs. Bollocks. Pages read, I'm doing quite well. Nothing has been as good as March. Nothing will ever be as good as March. Same with the books read per month. Again, that was another huge one. That was a lot of audiobooks or ebooks of books that I don't own. This was part of the problem. But and also, I know that June looks absolutely tiny, but as I'm filming this, I am almost finished another 2 books, and they are quite big page count books, so like this will go up as the month goes on. It's fine. I'm filming this on the 7th, okay? The 7th of June. It's fine, it will go up. But yeah, so the rest of the months are looking pretty decent. I'm pretty happy with it. I do need to read more books that I own. That is the main problem here. But yes, so that is how my reading is going. The best book that I have read so far in 2024, I really should have prepared. Sorrowland by Rivers Solomon. This, I'm pretty sure I gave 10s across the board on Core because part of me was like, oh yeah, like it's a 5-star, but I don't think it's 10s. And then I was like, I can't give any less than 10 for everything. It's fantastic. We follow a young black girl who is starting out in a cult that is all about like sticking it to the man, screw this racist American society, but it's a cult. And so she escapes and she gives birth to twin boys, and she is trying to survive with them whilst not going back to the cult. And she's like 15. This is beautifully written, fantastically done. It is perfection. The best sequel I've read so far this year is The Toll by Neal Shusterman. This is the 3rd and final book in the Scythe, Arc of the Scythe trilogy, and this was so good. I still think that Scythe is my favourite, but this was my 2nd favourite from the whole series. I think it does a fantastic job at wrapping up everything. It really improves after Thunderhead. Thunderhead wasn't as good of a book, at least for me personally, and I think that this just wraps up this world fantastically. It's so enjoyable. I had such a great time. This is one of my favourite books of the year so far. My favourite reread so far, I have not done many rereads. But I did reread The Gift by Alison Croggon, so obviously this is my favourite one. 5 out of 5, 10s across the board on Core. This is my favourite book in the world. It is a high fantasy book where you bards are travelling throughout the world trying to save it. There's music-based magic. There is a young slave girl who learns that she actually has the world on her shoulders. It's beautiful. I adore it. My copy is falling apart. I mention this every time, because it keeps falling out in my hands every time. The genre that I have been loving / reading the most. Fantasy. Is anybody really surprised? I'm not. I had hoped for more sci-fi, but I am giving up on that for the time being. It is fantasy. A new release that I haven't read yet, but that I want to. High Voltage by Chris Sugden and Jen Sugden. This is a married couple. Look at those edges, it's so pretty. And this has been described as being like Ben Aronovich, Douglas Adams and Terry Pratchett. So I have enjoyed books from all 3. I am always wary when people are compared to Terry Pratchett because his writing is so unique and well crafted, and it has multiple meanings through everything as well as being funny. However, I'm going into this just hoping that it's British and funny, is what I'm aiming for. This is supposed to be humorous and very British, and it's set in like historical London in the 1880s, so it should be a good time. my most anticipated release for the second half of the year, that is The Night Ends with Fire by KX Song. It is one of the few Goldsboro books that I'm actually still really excited about. I tried to cancel my Goldsboro membership and I still have to buy 4 more books from the Science Fiction and Fantasy subscription before I can leave the subscription. I'm not amused by that. So this is one of them that I'm actually looking forward to. I think it sounds fascinating. It's another high fantasy, so hello. And I'm really looking forward to it. Biggest disappointment, The Cat Who Caught a Killer by L.T. Shearer. This book is fucking awful. I think I mentioned at the time, I read it in January, and I mentioned at the time that this book is clearly written by a really right-wing upper class person, and it just makes it really unreadable. Like, I've read books from right-wing upper class people that I have enjoyed, despite being working class, middle class now, and massively left-wing. But this then makes the story not make sense. We have a character whose their lack of grasp of money isn't written into the character, it's just the author's lack of grasp of money, and so it makes inconsistencies. It makes things unrealistic. They have complaints about things being underfunded, but then they complain about the government, and it's also, like, on top of the fact that it's unreadable because of that, the story is just kind of fine. Like, the cat isn't as exciting as I had hoped it would be. So, like, I would have, without the idiocy of the author, I would have read this and given it, like, a decent 3, but 1 star. 1 star. My biggest surprise, that has to be Hagstorm by Victoria Williamson. I adored this. I was sent it, thank you so much folks, by the wonderful people over at Croggon Publishing, and this is a retelling of both the life of Rad Burns and also his poem Tam O'Shanter intertwined. It is a middle grade book and it is beautiful. This is done amazingly. I need to, like, save up so I can buy a load of copies of it for my mum's school because it's absolutely fantastic. I was engrossed, it's beautifully written. I couldn't put it down. This is absolutely fantastic. I read Tam O'Shanter just before, well, reread just before I read this, and so I really was able to see all of the references in there, and it's just, this is beautiful and so underhyped massively. Like, I don't know anyone who's heard of this, let alone read it, and it is absolutely fantastic. If you want a spooky middle grade read, this has all got witches and stuff in it, so it is perfect for spooky season, or if you're doing Summerween. This is an absolutely fantastic book written by a Scottish author, published by an indie Scottish publishing house. If you live in the UK, they do free shipping across all mainland UK, so heads up. I highly recommend. This is such a fantastic little book. My favourite new author. I struggled with this one because a lot of the books that I've loved this year have been by authors I've read from before. However, I adored Rizzio by Denise Mina. So I'm not going to call her a new favourite author because I haven't read enough from her to justify that. However, this book is 5 stars. I loved it, and so that's counting. This is a book about when Mary Queen of Scots is betrayed and her husband decides to kill off her advisor because he doesn't like him. This is amazingly done. Like, I read this when I was reading all of the shortest books on my TBR, so I will leave the wrap up for that month up here if you'd like to see some more details on my thoughts for this one. My newest favourite character, I think, is a mixture of Granny Og and Nanny Og and Granny Weatherwax. I have read 2 books from the Witches series within Discworld this year, and I've listened to them both via audiobook, whereas the previous books I'd read them physically, and when I was a little less into Discworld. I'm having a fantastic time with the Witches. I'm reading them audibly because my partner never bought those books after reading them in the library because he's not keen on the Witches series out of Discworld. I'm loving it. I adore Granny Weatherwax. I would murder for her. She would be very displeased with me, and yet very glad. And Nanny Og is just such a little cutie, and they're so stupid. And Margaret, I do love Margaret, but she's not my favourite as much as Nanny and Granny. A book that made me cry. I did not expect it to be A Reaper at the Gates by Sabaa Tahir. I was listening to this via audiobook and just lying in bed and having my pillow soaked with my tears. It does help that I cried because it wasn't too long after death in my family, so I was probably a little bit more emotional. However, it still did get me in the feels, so there you go. A book that made me happy. So I struggled with this one because I don't tend to read very happy books, like even the ones that are a bit more upbeat, have a lot of like death in them. But I went with Mia's Kingdom by Astrid Lindgren, which was gifted to me by the wonderful Veronica from Veronica's Shelf. I really enjoyed reading this. It's such a sweet little fairy tale. It is intended for children, and so this story, once you know it, goes exactly how you think it's going to go. A young boy is brought into faraway land, he learns that he's the son of the king, and then he has to defeat the big evil bad that is destroying his brand new kingdom. And it is so cute, it's so predictable, but in the best, most comforting way, and I just had a wonderful time with this book. Then, the most beautiful book that you have bought or received this year. I have 3. One of them doesn't have any fancy sprayed edges. I just love the cover so much, and that is A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan. I haven't read this yet, but I have adored this cover for years. I have had this on my radar for like 6 or 7 years now, it feels like. Please tell me that it has been published that long, because otherwise... Yeah, it was published in 2014. So yeah, I've had this on my radar for a while now. It looks gorgeous. This was gifted to me when Olivia Savannah was doing an unhaul, thank you so much. Mwah. And I am so excited to dive into this. It also seems like it'll be my book, but like, look at, it's got a little... And then the other 2 books are both from Goldsborough. One of them is one from last year technically, but I was one of the people who just didn't get the book that month because they didn't have enough copies because they got damaged, and they ended up with some extras and offered it to me. And I said yes, so that's Faebound. And whilst I do really like the purple edition that Goldsborough had, it's the edges. It's the edges. And then also, for the edges, is House of Open Wounds. This was January's Goldsborough science fiction and fantasy book, and again, the edges. Like, the cover is fantastic, but transferring the cover onto the edges, stunning. Stunning. So those are, this is the cover that's the most beautiful, and then 2 sprayed edges that I would die for. Then what books do you need to read by the end of the year? Honestly, like my damn TBR. Like I said at the beginning, I didn't realise how bad I was actually doing at reading through my physical TBR this year. It's kind of like really put me down because I thought I was doing quite well with it. However, some things that I really do want to focus on, and luckily are on my physical TBR, moving my little trinkets out the way, is all of the books that I have that are the final book in a series. I read it and I finish out the series, and I have read some from these, but it has grown as I've read more books from series. So I have Dreams of Gods and Monsters, The Blood Gift by Annie Davenport, Seven Endless Forests by April Genevieve Tucholke, The Ever Cruel Kingdom by Rain Chupeco, Mindbreaker by Kate Dillon, A Psalm of Storm and Silence by Roseanne A. Brown, The Lantern Bearers, the final book in this trilogy by Rosemary Sutcliffe, Dark Dawn by J. Christoph, Citadel by Kate Moss, and The Light One by Rebecca Zahavi. So as of filming, those are all the books that I have where if I just read these, then I finish the series. And finishing out series is one of my goals for this year. Also reading from my damn TBR, but at least this does both. So those are fairly high up on my need to read list. Then my favourite video or post that I've done so far this year. So I'm going to go with video because this is on YouTube, and I am mixed between 2. One that I'm very happy with is my shortest books on my TBR vlog, which I will link up here if you'd like to go back and watch it. I had a lot of fun doing that. I don't do vlogging very often because I feel like I'm not very good at it, but I think that that showed me that if I actually put the time in and, you know, put a bit of effort into it, I can come up with a half decent video. I really did enjoy that, and I enjoyed reading all day. It was really fun. And then also, I really like my June TBR. If you haven't seen it, I am still recovering from the flu. There's been a lot of cuts in this because I have been coughing quite badly, so I am still recovering. It has been like 2 weeks now, but I really wanted to get my June TBR out, and so I just filmed it with my hands up in the air. It's ridiculous, it's stupid, it was a lot of fun, and it still took me like an hour to edit, but I enjoyed that one. I think it's really stupid, really fun, and yeah. It's one of my faves. And then the final question is my favourite book community members, and I have so many people that I could mention for this. Like, I don't even know where to start. Like, so many wonderful human beings I'm so glad that I get to chat with every single day. But I'm gonna have a look through my subscription list and see if I can see people that need a bit more love. Sunshine Lorena does not have enough subscribers. I've really enjoyed her content. Same with Pixie with Pens. and I don't know how to say this, Cozy Hoax. It's Heaux. She recently changed her channel name. I really enjoy her content too. So those are 3 that I do not recommend enough, and that is the mid-year book freakout tag. I'm not going to tag anyone because I've got a feeling that every single person who wants to do this does this. I don't think I did it last year, I just missed out on it, the time went by. But yeah, there's no point tagging anyone because people will do it. But if you do it and you'd like me to see it, then please do tag me. Let me know how your reading year is going down in the comments below. How many books have you read so far this year? Remember that if you've read 800, that is amazing and insane and I need your tips, but if you've read 1, that's fantastic too. Even if you're just picking something up, as long as you're enjoying it, the whole point of this is that we are having a fun time. If you do like to see some more of my videos, then please do hit the subscribe button down below. If you hated the video, please do hit the dislike button, and I will see you folks in the next one. Bye!